Imagine standing alone in the freezing wilderness, miles from civilization. The only sound is the howling wind, and the only light comes from the faint glow of the moon on the snow-covered slopes. Now, imagine finding a campsite, tents slashed open, footprints leading into the darkness, and the lifeless bodies of 9 hikers scattered across the landscape. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. This is the haunting reality of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. What happened to these hikers on that fateful night in 1959? And why does the mystery still baffle investigators more than 6 decades later? Our story begins in January 1959 in Soviet Russia. A group of 9 hikers, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, set out on what was meant to be the adventure of a lifetime. They were young, energetic, and highly experienced in outdoor survival. Their goal? To trek through the remote Ural mountains and reach the summit of Mount Otorten, a place so isolated that its name translates to, "Don't go there," in the local Mansi language. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all students or graduates of Ural Polytechnic Institute. They meticulously planned their route, carrying diaries, cameras, and enough supplies to endure the harsh conditions. On January 27, the group departed from Vizay, a small settlement that marked the last point of civilization. It was the last time anyone saw them alive. The journey began smoothly, and the group appeared to be in high spirits. They documented their trek through photos and diary entries, describing the beauty of the landscape and their camaraderie. But as they moved deeper into the mountains, the weather worsened. Blizzards, freezing temperatures, and heavy snowfall slowed their progress. Still, they pressed on, determined to complete their expedition. On February 1, the group pitched their tent on the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl, a decision that would later puzzle investigators. The slope was exposed and vulnerable to the elements, but the group seemed unconcerned. Their last diary entries hinted at no signs of trouble, and their final photos showed a calm, snowy evening. But something happened that night, something so terrifying that the hikers fled their tent without shoes, coats, or even basic survival gear. When the group failed to return as scheduled, search teams were dispatched to find them. Weeks later, on February 26, rescuers stumbled upon their campsite. What they found defied explanation. The hiker's tent was discovered first, ripped open from the inside. Inside were their boots, jackets, and supplies, untouched, as if they had fled in a blind panic. Footprints, some barefoot, led away from the tent into the freezing snow. As rescuers followed the tracks, they began to find bodies. 2 hikers were found under a cedar tree, barefoot and dressed in only their underwear. Nearby, evidence suggested they had tried to light a fire for warmth. 3 more bodies were found scattered between the tree and the tent, as if they had collapsed while trying to return to safety. It wasn't until months later, when the snow melted, that the remaining 4 hikers were discovered in a ravine, buried under several feet of snow. The condition of the bodies only deepened the mystery. Some died of hypothermia, but others had injuries so severe that investigators compared them to the force of a car crash. 1 hiker had a fractured skull, 2 had broken ribs, and 1 woman's body was missing her tongue and parts of her face. Yet, there were no external wounds consistent with an attack. Adding to the mystery, traces of radiation were found on their clothing, and investigators noted an unusual orange hue to the victim's skin. Over the decades, countless theories have tried to explain what happened that night. The official explanation from Soviet investigators was an avalanche. They believed the hikers were caught off guard, fled their tent, and succumbed to the elements. But many experts argue that the injuries don't align with this theory. Others believe the hikers stumbled upon a secret military test site and were caught in an explosion or exposed to experimental weapons. The traces of radiation lend weight to this theory, as does the Soviet government's swift closure of the case. Then there are the more bizarre theories. Some suggest the hikers were attacked by a yeti, citing claw-like injuries on their bodies. Others point to UFO sightings reported in the area, speculating that extraterrestrial activity may have played a role. And finally, there's the infrasound hypothesis, which suggests that wind patterns in the mountains created a low-frequency sound that induced panic and disorientation. In recent years, advancements in technology have reignited interest in the Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 2020, a study using advanced avalanche simulations suggested that a rare slab avalanche might explain the hiker's injuries and behavior. This theory has gained traction, but it still leaves many unanswered questions, ensuring that the mystery of Dyatlov Pass endures. What do you think happened that night in the Ural Mountains? Was it an avalanche, a military cover-up, or something more sinister? Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more gripping true crime stories. Thank you for watching, and stay curious.